Hey there, welcome back to Procon Grey. I enjoy driving. I enjoy the feeling that the car is an extension of me. That sensation of motion is calming, often therapeutic. And I do enjoy those short bursts of acceleration. The car is one of the few places where I can play my music loud and not worry about what the neighbors are saying. It's my own private place, my fortress of solitude, even. But what I absolutely hate is traffic. Traffic is the bane of any large city, especially those with inadequate infrastructure. The absolute worst is bumper to bumper traffic. Because I drive a manual, so it's constantly me holding down the clutch, switching to first gear, releasing the clutch slightly, moving forward an inch or two, again depressing the clutch, waiting for a few moments, releasing the clutch, moving forward again a few inches, stopping, restarting, constantly holding down that heavy clutch. And sometimes these gridlock conditions could be 10, 20 minutes, at times even longer. So by the time I reach whatever destination I was heading out to, I end up with a terrible pain in my left leg and I'm limping like an old man. It was getting so bad that I was considering selling my car and buying an automatic. The thing is, I really like my car. I've done small modifications to it and personalized it the way I like. And apart from just being a manual, it's a lovely car. But yeah, gosh, I wish I'd sprung for an automatic all those years ago when I bought it. But the thing is, I like changing gears. I like that feeling of control, feeling of being able to drive the car based on my current mood. If I want to drive economically and smoothly, I'll just slowly shift gears. But if I want to drive adventurously and maybe a tad aggressively, I can quickly shift gears and quickly change up, change down. So it gives me this, as I said in the beginning, the sense of being connected to the machine. Now, true, some of the better automatic gearboxes do allow you to drive with a fair degree of sportiness, but those tend to be a little bit more expensive. So I desperately needed something that would take away this pain of constantly having to clutch, especially in traffic. But I also wanted to be able to change gears and keep the same car. So yeah, tall if not an impossible order. So I began searching for maybe if there are any solutions in the market that could help me with this. And that's when I came across the automatic clutch pedal system. And on paper, this system promised to do everything that I wanted. It promised to take any manual transmission car and convert it to what's effectively an automatic, minus the gear changing bit. So basically a semi-automatic, where the depression and release of the clutch pedal is done automatically, which was actually my most painful point. And everything else is the same. This automatic clutch pedal system promised to be economically priced. It promised to not interfere with any of the car's mechanics and safety systems. And it promises not to void one's insurance. So yeah, it seems too good to be true. So I needed to know more. And that's when I started digging a little bit deeper into this solution. And I didn't find too much, actually. I could only come across two companies in India that provided such a system. One was Automate India, and the other was CityClutch. Now, their websites didn't give me too much information, but I did come across a couple of YouTube videos for each. And not just by the companies themselves, but also by people who've bought and installed these systems in their cars, so actual user reviews. I also searched on automotive blogs and like Team BHP, etc., and I didn't find too much information there, unfortunately. So largely, my decision to go ahead with this was based on YouTube videos. And from the videos I saw, I felt the AutoClutch system built by CityClutch was a little better. It was more polished, and from the reviews, it sounded like it was a more efficient and more smoother system. So I decided to give that one a shot. I reached out to CityClutch and they were pretty quick to respond. Answered all my multiple questions about how it works, the mechanics behind it, the potential drawbacks, the advantages, installation time, etc. And obviously cost. and pretty happy with what I heard. So I told them that yes, let's go ahead with it. Let's install this CityClutch auto clutch pedal system in my car. And I've been using it for nearly a month now. Again, only done city driving, but that's primarily the use case for this system, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it as we go along this video. But here's the thing, spoiler alert, I'm really happy with it. But let me start by telling you about the components that make up this auto clutch system. So there are 4 components that get installed in one's car. You have the motor, the control unit, the belt, and the touch sensor. Now the motor is what actually pulls the belt that depresses and releases the clutch. It gets signals from the control box in terms of when and how much force and how much timing to apply. It sits under the driver's seat and operates almost silently. If it's quiet, you don't have music playing, you can almost make out the gentle actuation and release of the motor system. So it doesn't interfere with you at all. The control unit is a smaller box that sits also under the driver's seat. It takes in multiple signals from the system, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And it sends control signals to the motor in terms of when to actuate and disengage the clutch. The belt is connected to the motor at one end and a pulley system that actually presses and releases the clutch. This is installed in such a way that you can't see it. It's kind of runs beneath the floor mat and seems like a very secure system. I've had no trouble with it at all. And the last bit, and probably the smallest, is a tiny touch sensor that you stick onto the side of your gear stick, which acts as one of the signals to the control unit. Now, how does it all work? So the control unit receives signals either from the vehicle speed sensor, the throttle position sensor, the brake position sensor, or the touch sensor that's connected to your gear stick. The control unit has pre-programmed logic that takes information from these sensors and decides if and when to press the clutch, and if so, how quickly to press and when to release. So completely automated. But I think to make this easier, let me describe a couple of real-world scenarios and tell you how the system works based on that. Let's take scenario 1, starting the car. Here I would get in and start the car as normal by putting my foot down on the clutch and pressing the start button. Gears on neutral, car starts up. When the car starts up, the control unit will check vehicle speed 0, okay? Throttle not pressed, brake not pressed, touch sensor not pressed. So therefore nothing happens. It doesn't do anything. Then when I touch the gear lever to switch it to first gear, the act of touching it triggers the touch sensor, sends a signal to the control unit, automatically that presses down the clutch. And then I switch it to first gear. Now when I take my hand off the gear lever, the control unit gently starts releasing the clutch, and the car begins to slowly and gently crawl forward. If I want to move forward faster, I just simply press the accelerator, and the throttle position sensor increases the speed of clutch release, and I can move forward faster. So very smooth, very easy. Scenario 2, driving in light traffic. So here, say I'm driving on 4th gear, and I see vehicles in front of me slowing down a bit. So I reach out, touch the gear stick, and the minute I touch it, the clutch gets depressed. And I switch it to 3rd gear and let go of the gear. And again, because I'm already moving forward, the vehicle speed sensor sends a signal to the control unit that I'm already moving at a sufficient speed. So the clutch gets released sufficiently quickly, and I continue moving forward. No jerkiness, no stalling, no vibration. It just moves forward very smoothly. So again, pretty easy, pretty smooth. Scenario 3, driving in heavy traffic. So let's say traffic is slowing down to a stop, and whatever gear I'm in, I press the brake. It slows down to a near stop. Well, let's say it stops. The car doesn't stall because I press the brake, and pressing the brake, once the car goes below a particular speed, the clutch automatically gets pressed by the system. And then I switch the gear into first gear, and I release the gear lever. Now I'm still pressing the brake, so the clutch still stays down. The system doesn't release the clutch. Now as the car in front of me starts to move forward, I gently lift my foot off the brake. And in doing so, the brake signal position sensor sends a signal to the control unit. The control unit starts releasing the clutch slowly, and the car crawls forward. And if the car in front of me stops, I press the brake gently, the clutch goes down, the car stops. And so In this scenario of stop and go traffic, the gear stays in first gear. I only have to touch and release the brake gently, and the car will stop, crawl forward, and then stop again. Left leg does nothing at all. And what I really like about this is it'll never stall, because whenever you press the brake, if you're going pretty slow, the clutch gets pressed. If you're going fast and you press the brake, the clutch doesn't get pressed because they've built in the logic of engine braking. Until and unless the vehicle drops below a particular speed, the clutch will not get depressed. And that speed is just above when the car begins to stall. So you got that built-in safety system. What else? Scenario 4. Stop and go traffic on a ramp or a flyover. Now, sadly, this happens a lot. I'll be driving up a flyover, and then suddenly there's a traffic jam there. And this is terribly awkward because I'm on a fairly high incline, stopped right in front of a car. Behind me, there's a car that stopped inches away from my rear bumper, and we're just there. Now, normally, I would struggle because while I've pressed the clutch and the brake, if the car in front of me moves, I have to do this little bit of a balancing act, because if I release the clutch too quickly, the car jumps forward and could bump against the car in front of me. And if I release the clutch too slowly, the car could stall and or roll back and I could bang to the car behind me. So getting this balancing act is tough between pressing the clutch, the brake, and twisting my foot and pressing the accelerator as well. Yeah, you can use the handbrake to make it easier, but it's always been a little bit challenging for me getting stuck in these positions. Now with this system, I don't have that trouble at all. What I do is, if I'm stuck on a ramp, I simply press the brake, switch the car into first gear, and pull up the handbrake. And I release the brake. And when the car in front of me starts moving forward, I release the handbrake. And when I release the handbrake, the car stays in position. So it's kind of like a hill hold mechanism. It's just built in. So the car doesn't go back, it doesn't go forward, it just stays there. And when I touch the accelerator slightly, that's when it starts moving forward. So it's super convenient. No more worrying about rolling back a bit. No more worrying about jumping forward. Just have to remember, first gear, handbrake, release the brake. And then to move forward, drop the handbrake, touch the accelerator. No stress. This has been one of the parts I love about this system. Oh, side note, calibration is really important here. So this is an important step once the system gets installed in your vehicle, because in the control unit, and this is something the technician does, right? But in the control unit, there are buttons to control at what speed the clutch gets depressed, at what speed the clutch gets released, the time it takes to release the clutch. And these are very important because it differs based on different vehicle types. Mine's a diesel and it's fairly highly, it's got a reasonable amount of torque. If you're on a petrol, not much torque, you might want a different timing around that configuration. Even if your driving style is different, you'd want that configured to you. So after the system was installed, which took, I think, no more than 2 hours, the technician sat with me. I drove the car around and he played around with the settings of the control box so that it matched my particular driving style. Like, I would want the clutch to get released quicker. I would want that extra torque, especially while going uphill. So he set that based on my preferences. And even reverse gear, the speed at which it reverses, all that can be set up in the control unit. So it's very important that you sit with the technician, drive the car yourself, and describe to him how you want it to be set up. Yeah, that's on calibration. So let me talk about some of the pros of this system, the advantages of the automatic clutch pedal system. First is simplicity of design. There's no impact on insurance. It's easily removable and installable on your next vehicle. The components are pretty compact and fit neatly under the seat, and visibly you don't see any additional parts in the vehicle at all. Next is driving comfort. So it's very convenient now in stop and go traffic. I don't have to stress about clutching and braking, and I don't have to strain my left leg at all. No more stalling. Now this is really good for new drivers because beginner drivers always struggle with often pressing the brake too much and stalling the car. And that panic of stalling in traffic with people blowing the horn behind you, that puts away a lot of beginner drivers. With the system, it just doesn't stall. The minute your speed drops below a particular threshold, the clutch gets automatically pressed. The minute you over brake in any scenario and you go to a near dead stop, the clutch gets pressed. So all you need to do is switch down the gear and move forward. Less stress on inclines and flyovers. With its hill hold function that I spoke of in remember scenario 4, driving up an incline is just so much easier. Cost savings is also another important point. And this is specifically for me because, as I said, I was considering selling my car and buying a new car which had an automatic transmission, just because I was sick and tired of pressing the clutch. So even though this system was, I wouldn't call it cheap, it was so much cheaper than buying a whole car just to get the same functionality or similar functionality. The other advantage of the automatic clutch system is I still have complete control over gear shifts. I've driven a few automatic cars and I do feel less involved in the driving experience because I don't have to think about changing gears, but sometimes I kind of want to. Sometimes I might want to drop a gear and then quickly overtake a vehicle in front of me, which in an automatic, and maybe not the better automatics, but maybe the less modern automatics, it's not the sharpest of experience. The next two advantages I'd say is pure speculation. I don't know, but I would say it's possible with the AutoClutch system you might end up with less wear and tear of your clutch plate, because some people, and I've been guilty of this in the past, tend to often ride the clutch while driving. We tend to keep our foot partially pressed on the clutch and over a period of time wearing out the plate, especially when it's not needed. With this system, the clutch only gets depressed when it's programmed to, when the scenario calls for it. So it's possible that maybe there'll be less wear and tear. I don't know, time will tell. And related to that is possibly better fuel savings because you're only pressing the clutch when needed. So otherwise you're maintaining your momentum and power delivery. So it's possible you might have marginally better fuel savings. But on these 2 points, I really don't know. I'm just guessing at this point. Now, what are the cons? What are the negatives to the automatic clutch pedal system? Well, first is cost. It's not a cheap system. It costed me a bit over 50,000 rupees. That's, I think, a little over $600. For me, that was totally worth it because what I get in return is peace of mind and a very comfortable driving experience in spite of the heaviest of traffic. Now, the other potential drawback could be reliability. Again, I've not faced any issues with this, but I want to call this out. It could be reliability. What if the motor fails and the belt system doesn't work and the clutch doesn't get pressed? Well, really, it's not a safety issue because if that ever happens, you just press the clutch like you normally would. It wouldn't really cause a devastating problem. At the most, the system won't power on. The system won't press the clutch. That's okay. You can easily take over. So I don't see this as too much of a safety concern. And also, going through the comments from the different YouTube videos that I've seen, I've never heard of anyone complain about system reliability. But I'm just putting this out there because I've only used this for a month right now and I've personally had no problems with it. A third drawback is a very minor one, and it's something that maybe is more specific to me. But I do feel this sense of disconnection from the car by not pressing the clutch or not needing to press the clutch. Remember in the beginning of this video, I said that I feel that the car is an extension of me. Well, lately when I drive the car, because I'm not actively pressing the clutch, I tend to feel slightly disconnected and I feel the car's not so much an extension of me, but more a machine that I'm operating. But look, the fact that I'm changing gears still brings me back to that. So it's not a major issue. It's honestly a minor, and to many of you, it's going to be a non-issue. The fourth disadvantage, I would say, and again, this is also a small one, and again, more specific to me, is a slightly less sporty drive. The system takes about 0.8 seconds to activate, which means that the moment I touch the gear, I invariably also touch the touch sensor side of the gear lever. So the moment I touch it, it takes 0.8 seconds to depress the clutch. To most of you, that's less than a second. You wouldn't even notice it. But those few times when I want to quickly change gears, I want to quickly drop down a gear and accelerate, and I want to drive a little sporty, I can't. That 0.8 seconds is noticeable, so I can't do quick gear changes. But it's not really an issue as well, because I would end up wanting to do these quick gear changes when there's little to no traffic. And in those scenarios, there's a simple switch on the side of my steering column that I just flip the switch, system switches off, and I drive the car like I normally would. So it's, completely reversible, and I think this is a non-issue as well. As I say it, I don't think it's too much to be concerned about. So in summary, I've used the system in my car for nearly a month now, and I'm very happy with it. It's made driving comfortable. I don't stress out about traffic anymore. And most importantly, I don't have any pain in my left leg, which used to be a constant daily issue for every commute. And I like the fact that whenever I want, I can just flick the switch, system shuts down, and I drive the car as normal. Also, very important, when you're giving the car to valet, remember to put the switch off, because they don't know that you've got an automatic clutch pedal system installed. So it can be quite frightening for them when they are starting the car and the clutch doesn't quite come up. Happened once, but I've learned from that. Now, why am I making this video? This is not a sponsored video. The guys at CityClutch don't even know I'm doing this. I was just thinking, look, it's genuinely benefited me a lot having the system in the car. And in India, I think over 85% of all cars are manual transmission. And also in India, most cities have terrible traffic. So a system like this is an ideal solution for those that aren't in a hurry to go out and buy an automatic. This could be a good stopgap solution, and for many, they might even prefer it over an automatic. So I want to talk about it, and I realized that in my journey to get here, there wasn't much information online available on the system. So I'm doing this video to hopefully get some conversations going and maybe get a few of you to try out this system. And I'd love to hear your feedback as well on whether this worked for you as well as it worked for me. And on that note, I'll end the video here. I will leave the WhatsApp number of the guys from CityClutch in the description below, so feel free to reach out to them for any questions, clarifications. And if you have any specific questions or scenarios you want me to test, do leave that in the comments and I'll try and get to that whenever I can. So cool, this has been Procon Gray, signing off. See you in the next one. Cheers.